It's the music Hitler hated and you will love. Join me, Barry Humphries, and the delectable cabaret artiste Meow Meow in an evening of magnificent, exciting, jazzy music. I'll see you there.
That was amazing. That was so beautiful.
Sensational. I wasn't expecting anything like that.
It was really fun and really joyous.
Absolutely astonishing. Quite glorious.
There was comedy, there was pathos, and the orchestra on stage were just sublime.
Fantastic music.
The show is just mind-blowing. It's absolutely stunning.
It's a very special show, Lovely marriage of talent.
Barry Humphries obviously can do no wrong. He's hilarious. Barry has to speak and he's got the audience in the palm of his hand.
You get Barry Humphries as Barry Humphries, which I've never seen before, actually coming out and talking about something that he loves. It takes you on this glorious journey.
It's brilliant. Meow Meow is fabulous. What a voice. What a voice. It's the perfect package.
There are no two people I'd rather spend an evening with. It's only on for a short time, but actually in terms of a sort of experience in the theatre, you'd be hard pushed to find something more enjoyable.
The show was wonderful. Barry's always mesmerising to watch whatever he does.
Yeah, he was so funny. We've had a great night out.
But also it's just sexy music, isn't it? I love that sort of music.
I think this music grabs you by the throat.
It's an important bit of history, and it's wonderful music. You know, it holds everyone's attention together, and of course I'm in it. And this may be one of the last times you could ever see me.
Well, I'm very passionate about this music wherever I am, actually, and being on stage with Barry, I would follow him to the ends of the earth.
At the end of the First World War, Germany was in disgrace. The morale in Germany and in Austria was zero. Strangely enough, from the ashes of this destruction arose an extraordinary creative energy which found its outlet in film, in architecture, literature, in philosophy, and in music. This was the period of the Weimar Republic, a brief episode of democracy until the rise of Hitler in 1933. The music, which was forbidden by the Nazis and condemned as degenerate, is still obscure. We know some of it, don't we? I mean,
Kurt Weill,
songs
Mac
of
the
Kurt
Knife,
Weill.
and the Pirate Jenny and things like that. They're known.
These things are known, revived in the 1950s. Mac the Knife became a hit parade item. But the rest of the music is still unexplored. And we're doing that on stage with the Aurora Orchestra and with the greatest cabaret artist of our time, Meow Meow.
I love all of the passion in it. It's so wild. It's hilarious. It's dissonant. It's melancholic. I think you said before, sometimes it's the sweetest thing and then it'll crash into something else. This is also Barry's journey of finding this sheet music when he was a boy and really pursuing the stories of those composers, and there's something really beautiful in seeing a life of passion. I think it's about following your curiosity too. That's what I always feel when I spend time with you. I feel like it fills me with the desire to knock on the door and not just pass something by, to look further and go further, and that's the pleasure in this piece, I think.
Yes, it's an interest of mine that's pursued me since I was very young. And it's strange that should have happened, because I lived in Melbourne, a long way away from where all this happened. But I felt somehow a very strong affinity with it, with what was going on in Europe. I was born, after all, surprisingly, in the mid-1930s. So this is the music of which was happening then, or had just been happening. Hitler had been in power for 1 year when I was born. So I'm conscious very much of the history of that period. I have a completely blank mind. It springs from a very early interest of mine and came across a pile of sheet music by very unfamiliar composers. Much of it had not been heard since before the Second World War. Here was a repertoire that had disappeared. And I suggested that we do a program of this music Hitler hated.
They said pretty much that Barry was begging that I join.
Say what?
So, you know, when God calls, one must make oneself available. You know, it's this fantastic violence and collision, actually, of you know, sex and jazz and poverty. I mean, it's a terrible time and a brilliant time. That period is exciting, it's exhilarating.
It's jazz mixed with something else. It's taken on a new intensity.
It's an exquisite evening. There's a hilarity in there. Barry and I are completely, you know, ridiculous together. There's a lot of joy in there.
It's the music Hitler hated and you will love. Join me, Barry Humphries, and the delectable cabaret artiste Meow Meow in an evening of magnificent, exciting, jazzy music. I'll see you there. There are no rules in cabaret. And it's a kind of amusement that makes you fall in love again. You know, when you laugh, you use little muscles that really you only use in only one other situation. Cabaret, above all, is sexy. The F word is worn out. It doesn't get much of a titter anymore. The desperate comedian has to use it all the time. Frankly, I intend to be using it a lot. I don't think I'll use any other word. How would I describe such a person? Funny, hilarious, naughty, sexy, addictive, outrageous, dangerous. If I have an addiction, it's probably to adrenaline. I like to hear that noise they make. It's like a fire going up a chimney. It exercises my adrenaline. Cabaret needs your testosterone. And I'm happy to say that there will be some very disreputable moments in this year's Cabaret Festival. I can guarantee that. Because I'm going to be appearing in it, you see. Cabaret wants your energy. Bravo! Well, I always felt that I might be an artist, but it wasn't a very good thing to suggest to one's parents in Melbourne, Australia, in the late 1940s, early 1950s, that one had a serious interest in art. I never studied art, but I used to save up my pocket money and buy art books. My school in Melbourne, which was run a bit like an English public school, there was also an art class. The art class was run by the athletics coach. He knew nothing at all about art, and I must have been a very irritating and priggish pupil. Our city was visited by Laurence Olivier and his wife Vivian Lee, and that was the Old Vic Theatre Company, and they presented 3 plays, and my parents had bought tickets for each show. Of course, no one went to the theatre for the play. We went there because that's what you did. It was a social event. I was deeply impressed, and it was the first time I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to be an actor? Kids are natural artists. You see marvelous things painted and drawn or written by children. But very soon, this gift dies. I suppose I've tried to maintain this infantile attitude of changing personality. And so I have a repertoire of characters that I deploy in the theatre, and they all represent different aspects of myself and different aspects of the world, and particularly the world that I grew up in, which happens to be a little fragment of civilization at the end of the world. As I become more of an old fogey, as I become more respectable, I still manage to give very deep offense to people. When I'm asked what kind of art I especially like, whether it be painting or music or literature, I rather pretentiously say that I like pre-cataclysmic art. That is to say, the art that is produced before some huge upheaval. So I've always been interested, for example, in the music and painting of Central Europe before the Second World War, between the wars, really. That sort of art has an energy. It anticipates, like all artists, what is to come. It's trying to say as much as it can before the lights go out. The gift that art gives humanity is a vision, a truthful vision of itself and its destiny. And also, it's like sunshine. It is really enhancing to existence. It is nourishing. And that's why the enemies of art and enemies of life hate it so much. I have to become someone else in order to walk onto the stage. Even doing a kind of interview like this, I have to invent a person to do it. You're not seeing me. You're seeing some new character that I've devised.
What inspired you to put on a Weimar Cabaret show?
Well, I've always been interested in music of this period, always for as long as I can remember. You know, I get the feeling that if you shook my family tree, someone rather exotic from Central Europe would fall out rather painfully.
What did we do last night? It seemed all right. But was it right?
This is music that was created just before the calamity of the Second World War and the rise, of course, of Hitler, who banned all this music. So this is an evening really of banned music. It's edgy, though, this music, and mean. And it's full of these wonderful emotions. And it makes, frankly, though I love French music, it makes French music sound sissy.
You said a lot, Johnny, all one big lie, Johnny. You cheated me blind, Johnny, from the minute we met.
Why do you think the Nazi government labelled this music as degenerate?
Well, a lot of it was influenced by jazz. They disapproved of jazz on racist grounds because they thought this was a black culture that had no place in the new Germany.
Primitive and wild.
Primitive and wild, they called it.
Yes.
Also, because it happened to be composed largely by Jewish composers. Those who survived went to Hollywood. Some of them created great film scores. Many of them lost their careers entirely, and several, not a few, were murdered.
There were laws against conférenciers, against MCs for their political outbursts, to the point, I think, in 1933, where Goebbels had a law about, you know, that there could be no cabaret MCs at all, because there were so many double entendres that they couldn't exactly control the content, so it was easier just to say it's not allowed. I mean, amazing.
It was easy to be advanced.
You only had to take off your clothes.
The music represented freedom, all kinds of freedoms, sexual freedom, political freedom, and these, of course, were anathema to the National Socialist regime. It was the new Puritanism. It makes our political correctness seem a bit tame, really. Though we're getting there.
Girls and boys today would rather steal and play, and we don't care. We tell them, get your share.
One of the pieces that I'm doing from 1919 is sort of an orchestrated orgasm, you could say. Deconstructed.
You could. I don't
Rather
know.
technical.
It doesn't have to be deconstructed.
You'll probably not be able to have these for the 7:30. This will be for the 10:30 report.
What can we do all day?
Now, what's it been like rehearsing with Barry?
Rehearsed? Did we have we rehearsed? I'm afraid it's all a bit improvised.
I'm just writing my words.
I've just got off a plane.
You make me laugh.
How would I describe such a person? Funny, hilarious, naughty, sexy, addictive, outrageous, dangerous. And it's the kind of amusement that makes you fall in love again. You know, when you laugh, you use little muscles that really you only use in only one other situation. Cabaret is sexy.